Hello, thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi, and today is Thursday night. Let's get together to stitch together. And this is going to be the Sashiko Live Streaming in English, and I will accept now. If you have any questions about Sashiko, I will be happy to answer those story questions, not a technical question. This is not a lecture. This is not a tutorial. I want to make it like a place to stitch together. ありがとうございます。英語版の刺し子配信です。日本語版は今日の夜、日本語版は今日の夜にやります。よろしくお願いします。I brought some topics, but Sakura. I brought some topics today, but I'm extremely sleepy now, so I may be off relatively earlier, or I may be a little slow. Regardless, I will switch my camera and then we'll start stitching. Just a second. Sakura. Just a second. Okay, perfect. This is good. Okay, Sakura, go. Can you move, please? Sakura, move. こんばんは。よろしくお願いします。Extremely sleepy. If I did not stated that I would be coming on every Thursday night, I would have probably have slept by now. So I brought some topics, but at the same time, it's probably easier for me to sort of float around. So if you could. Well, let's stitch. Let's stitch while talking about things. It's all right. Yeah, it's all right. The painting, I did a painting in my house, the wall, 2 walls. And I thought that was not gonna be that big of the project, but it was a very big project, and I think I did not take care of myself well for those 3 days, and extremely tired, and therefore it makes me sleepy. But at the same time, it does not really make any difference if I'm sleepy or not when we do Sashiko, so that's a good thing. Like, does not really, physical condition really does not affect Sashiko much. The mental probably reflects the mental condition a lot, but physically speaking, no matter how tired I am, Sashiko itself is not that different. Maybe even better for that, because I'm not really focusing on stitching. So that's one thing. It's one of the million things good about Sashiko. I brought some topic today about the guest. I don't want you to be just a guest in Sashiko. And the reason I started talking, sorry, I cannot speak. The reason I brought this topic today is that Japan will open its country soon to the tourism. Many of you probably will have a chance to visit Japan one day, especially right now the rate is pretty good for us, for the people who make some money outside of Japan. But it is good to be a guest. At the same time, for Sashiko, after being guessed a little bit, I want you to try to experience what really is. Many tourists goes to the, let's say, temple, and those temples are kind of modified or adjusted or sort of accommodated for the easiness for the guest, right? And today's Sashiko is like that too. I It's not wrong. It's not wrong at all, but it's really sometimes simplified, sometimes more easy going. Anyhow, it is modified based on the idea that there will be a guest. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. At the same time, since you're here, and since you're listening to our stories so much, at some point I want you to be somebody, like not a guest, more friends. That's why I keep calling my students friend, not a guest anymore, just more than that. Hello, what are you working on that looks so very beautiful? Thank you so much. What am I working on? I don't know. I'm making these patterns again. I know again, but this is the easiest pattern for me to stitch while talking, while reading the comment, while stitching in the very extremely tired condition. I promised to make, not a promise, but I kind of stated that I will stitch 100 meters of Asanho pattern, 100 meters. So I gotta do that. That's my experience with hand stitching too. The action of hand stitching itself when you're mid-project can be done no matter how tired, just because I can stitch in bed. I have not tried to stitch in the bed, actually. I don't know why. Because I probably will sleep. So yeah, you don't have to be the guest, and it's sometimes sad when a guest imagine that the whole experience in, let's say, Zen temple, I guess. Well, any temple is fine actually. If you go to the temple once and then if one guest kind of starts saying that they understand the whole picture of one specific Buddhism, that's pretty sad. And that's what's going on again. And unfortunately, that's what's going on in Sashiko today, and there are a lot more stories as well as ramifications for that matter. And I'm not saying everybody should or have to understand every ramification, every branches, but it is also very important to say that they are learning. They don't have to say that they don't know it yet. But again, I know what Sashiko is already a very big statement that they don't know enough about Sashiko. And that can be applied to many other cultures as well. Like I know about Zen. Like I know Zen. Like I know Zen is a very non-Zen like word. So it's a very difficult concept, but that's how it is. Word is not enough sometimes. Love for Sashiko from Brazil. Thank you. Welcome, welcome. It's very easy to switch while lying down. You only need to make sure you have your tools in the box that easy to reach and have pillows supporting your elbows. I think it's the brainwashed. Yeah, that's probably my psychological barriers. One of the psychological barriers that I don't stitch in the bed. I stitch while sleeping, I guess, when I sit down on the floor or even the table, but not in the bed or not in this like a blanket. I don't know why. There gotta be something makes me uncomfortable there. I don't know what it is, but interesting. Like I'm trying to explain what Sashiko is and how Sashiko can be explained in English. And the only one way, not only one way, sorry, the better way is bringing the analogy. Analogy sometimes does not explain the whole picture, but it also share the common expectation, common background. The last time somebody told me that common sense kind of. It's not really common sense. But yeah, today's analogy is the guest for the like let's say we go to Japan trip and then that's their first time to visit Japan. We visit some tourist temple because it's easier for us to arrange. And then one starts saying that they know about the whole picture of that temple or that ramification of that Buddhism. Many people think that it's not quite accurate. But because there's not that many people speaking up in Sashiko, that I don't want to say shallowness, but the shallowness get valued. And that's what I want to change. And I am, I guess, changing it little by little, but it's not fast enough to. The trend is much faster than what I'm doing, which is okay. If I try to sacrifice what I do to speed up, it's not gonna be Sashiko that I'd like to pass down. So it's okay that it's slow as long as it's keep moving. It's okay because as long as it's keep moving, somebody will find it. So I think that's what I'm doing right now. There was I received some of the where was that? I received a comment saying that the you benefit from the trend of Sashiko, but not accusing me, but it's probably a pure impression about what's going on with Sashiko, and they sort of mentioned that I get benefited by the trend of Sashiko, and it is yes. At the same time, that does not make me feel super happy. Yes, I get benefited from that, but it kind of makes me feel a little weird. It is true, but it's not. Something's missing there. I think I'm spending more time in the emotional labor, which was probably necessary, which was not necessary when the trend was not there. I don't know. Just a second, I'm sorry. Sleepy and sneezing. Wow. I learned about slow liberation. I'm sorry. What is that? Librarianship at the a library school talk, and I realized that it applies to many things. That's slow fashion and slow food and slow gathering. And I wish I understood it more, but I don't think I have to fully understand it to feel drawn to it and start learning from it and applying what I'm learning. I agree. I mean, there's no way to fully understand some. Like I fully understand what I'm doing, but that's not the whole picture of Sashiko. So I cannot say that I understand Sashiko fully. I understand the Sashiko we practice fully, of course. Otherwise, like teaching is like that, right? Like teaching is pretty much saying that I understand this much, so I can teach that. The problem is that sometimes the teacher doesn't define what they're teaching or even explain what they're teaching, and that creates a misunderstanding. But we are not that, we're humans, so we cannot really expect everybody to learn everything and then start. So like some people it's probably from the respect, and some people say that they are hesitant to start stitching because of those issues right now, including the cultural appropriation, blah blah blah. I shouldn't say blah blah blah, but those issues are there, and they're very respectful and very careful about those things. But I don't want them to worry about it too much. If they have a kindness or even mind to worry about it for the first few minutes, they won't do something crazy. So I just want them to, start trying. It doesn't have to be the way I do. It's much better than doing nothing. So it's good unless one start ignoring what it is. So acknowledge is the pretty much keyword. Acknowledge it, the stories behind it, and but sometimes we ignore things. We ignore things that it's not good for us. It's not convenient for us or profitable for us. And that's the time we start kind of have to thinking like, what am I filtering? Is it for the culture? Is it for the money? Is it for what is it? Unfortunately, in this world, some not sometimes, in many cases, profit and also some recognition comes before the um, actual culture or somebody's story. So that's why I have to keep speaking up. I don't like this. Liberation. That's the almost impossible word for the Japanese people to pronounce. Library is already very difficult already, right? Tongue twister. Like librarian is sort of good. Library is also okay. Librarianship. Oh, that's probably librarianship. Yeah. Sorry, I thought that was more difficult word than I thought. Yeah. Well, like for us, L and R are very difficult to distinguish. You may know that already. Um, because we have the L sound, we have like that same sound in between L and R, like D, larirurero. Larirurero is the sort of L and R at the same time, and neither of those. But we can learn how to sort of use the tongue or how to use our mouth to differentiate L and R, which not that good. But the problem is when there's two letters in one word, like library is library. So that's, I don't think the native English speaker do not think about those L and R. If there's L, we just pronounce it. I have to think about it, what is comes first. So English is so difficult. I mean, Japanese is difficult as well. I mean, language is difficult, of course, in order to fully understand it. But English is also difficult. I'm sleepy, so I'm gonna say this one. But since I am sharing Sashiko in English, I wonder why those Sashiko teachers do not speak Japanese though. Like, do they make excuse that they don't have enough time to study Japanese, although they're teaching about Japanese cultural things? But I do. Well, that's the privilege I received in my childhood, and I don't know. That does not really, does it justify them? I don't know. That's the trend. That's the trend. Easy trend, quick trend. The instant gratification trend is always there. Native speakers don't usually think about it. See, like my daughter probably are not thinking any of those things. She just pronounces it because she practiced a lot in school, and she speaks English from her that age. So, but also Japanese Sashiko teachers teach in imperfect English all the time. I think so. Yeah. I don't know many Japanese Sashiko teachers teaching in English. I actually don't know anybody. I know there are, I don't know how, we have to define what teachers are, but I don't know anybody who has more than 20 years of experience or 10 years of experience and teaching in English. I know that there are teachers who teaches Sashiko in Japan with 10 years or 20 years of experience, but not, there's so many teachers right now because of the trend. So because of the trend, there are many Japanese people teaching Sashiko regardless of their experience, and it does not really justify the quality by just being Japanese. Like I really think that I want the Sashiko teachers to be able to speak Japanese, but that doesn't mean that being able to speak Japanese itself justify that. So it's it's here and there. What? It's cool. Again, like more than 10 years or 20 years, let's say 20 years of experience. And anybody can be teacher at this age, right? So that's being able to speak English is one sort of the advantage. But there are many other Sashiko teachers in Japan that I wish they can take those classes. Well, they don't really offer the classes per se, so it's kind of difficult because Sashiko is not established. Teaching Sashiko is actually a new trend too. I was never prepared to teach. Yeah, I was not ready to teach when I was in Japan. And I started teaching Sashiko in 2017 as the sort of answer to the request to learn what I'm doing. After that, I'm learning how to teach. Like the first thing I had to do was to learn what is the question, what is the things that students are asking for. It took about 5 years to develop that, but quite frankly speaking, Sashiko is not something to teach. It might contradict what I'm doing, but I don't really teach. I mean, I offer a very good shortcut. One does not have to go through like 5 years or even 10 years of the detour I had to go through. Instead of bringing everybody to that big years of detour, um, I can offer something in 3 hours and then probably a few weeks. You don't have to go through that. But at the same time, that does not mean that, well, that's the start though. That's the only start. That's the only start. So it's really, after that, sorry, my teaching is pretty much giving them the good start, like a little boost. So that's why I keep saying, like, it would be great if one can take my class course it's going to support me straightly, directly, but it does not really I'm not gonna say that if you do not take my class, you will not get Sashiko. I don't say those things. It's not correct. Mines are more like a boost. But to be honest, again, like one has to do Sashiko about 10 years, 20 years though, like 20 years. I mean, they don't have to do things, or they don't have to try to make living out of Sashiko or something like that. But I want them to kind of keep stitching for 10 years, 20 years to see what is the view they see after that years. It has been, well, has been already 9 years since I left Japan. So that 9 years I've been stitching. Even before I came to the online. So 9 years plus several years before that. But yeah, that's my privilege that I saw a lot of such artisans with many years of experience, like not even like 20, 10 or 20 or 30, like 50, 60, 70, sometimes probably 80. And I was raised by those people. So teaching comes with very big responsibility, and I want to make sure that, but at the same time, we cannot really, control who learns from who. So only things I can do is to sort of offer enough information for them to choose who they are learning from. So for that, I don't know. I mean, I know some Sashiko teachers, but they don't speak English, so I mean, there are many new teachers, so I don't really count them. But again, like it's a very good thing to learn Japanese first. If you're gonna teach. If you're gonna teach. If you're gonna just enjoy Sashiko, then there's no problem actually. Well, it would be great, but that does not change your experience. Years are sort of amount of the time you spend in years are sometimes very significant. It goes back to today's topic, guest. Visiting the temple every day is kind of one way to not to be the guest, but yet it is the guest thing to do because you're visiting. There was a moment like when I was in high school, I used to do the running in the morning. The destination was sort of was it temple? I think it was a temple because it's not a shrine. So it's temple. And in the morning, every single morning, I run to about 2 kilometers in one way. So 4 kilometers in total. I run every morning to sort of pray in the morning. Not a pray, but greet to that. And I was guest. No, like even though I was doing it for 3 years, even more than that, I still feel that I was a guest. And I think that's okay. And there are different kind of the level in the guest. One way is to just enjoy the moment, enjoy the experience, like what do you call those things? Like attractions. It can be one attractions, And the second thing, it becomes the sort of custom or rituals as a guest. And the third step is to sort of soak into that. I don't know what requires to be there for Buddhism or temple. Probably, I don't think being a monk is gonna be that. There gotta be something, but I think those little tiny boundaries, not strong. Those unclear boundaries comes from kakugo. I can say that in Japanese. It's the determination. It's the determination is the word for that, but I don't think it's a correct or exact translation. It's more like a decision. For me, the time that I decided to live with Sashiko was the moment that I decided. I wasn't gonna teach back then, but I decided to live with it regardless. So that's why it's easy for me. Teaching came later, and I'll be stitching again regardless. I'll be stitching even more probably because I don't have to. If I don't teach, I'll be stitching more. So that's the biggest difference, I guess. So unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, but I wonder how many people or even teachers are gonna be there 10 years from now, even 15 years from now, or even sometimes 5 years from now. Are they gonna be gone while the trend is gone as well? Are they gonna be here? I mean, there's not that much things to teach in Sashiko. Uh, so when the trend is over, do they try to find something else to substitute that? Or are they from somewhere like that? So there's nothing wrong with not doing Sashiko too. Just that's the biggest difference I feel when it comes to that. Regardless is a very strong feeling. It took 25 years to get to that decision making. Like, let's say that I was sort of self-aware at the age of 6 or 7, and after that 25 years, it took 25 years to get that decision. Determination, I don't know what to call it. Yeah, it has become very big trend with a lot of tales to sustainability, slow fashion. All of those things are most Sashiko teachers. It's not their full-time job. Mine neither. I don't really make a living out of that. I have to depend on my wife. Without my wife, I probably wouldn't be able to um, provide family. I don't think so. And I don't want to say, but if I cannot do it, I don't think anybody else can do it by just doing Sashiko. That's why I keep saying that Sashiko and money is not the good fit. Um, so it is okay to like. There's nothing wrong with being teachers of part time. There's nothing wrong with it. But then the question kicks in, like, are they using Sashiko to sort of fulfill the gap, or are they gonna live there, or are they gonna just keep moving and once they eat every crops? Like, are they gonna cultivate? It's a difference between the a worm And then it's a difference between the worm under the ground which sort of the cultivate, which makes the ground richer, or are they those grasshoppers who keeps moving on? It's not a matter of good or bad. I just make sure that you know who you are learning from. And I don't know. I don't really have the opportunity to talk to those teachers because they don't talk to me much. I sometimes ask a question, but they don't answer well. So I'm happy to have a open discussion if that's what they are willing to. But according to some of the comment, I can be sometimes pretty condescending or scary for that matter, I guess. Yep, so trend until the next best thing shows up. So that's what I'm saying. It's okay because that's what trend is. But the biggest difference is that I will not move. Like if I start doing crochet here, there's nothing wrong with crochet, but I will not do that. I may enjoy some of the crafting as the side as a side channel, some like a sub channel, whatever it is. Like I might do some crafting, like some jewelry making. It's really up to my daughter. If whatever she's interested, I might do it. I do dyeing, so I might show some of the dyeing stuff. But if I start teaching crochet or knitting or dyeing, that's a very bad sign that I need money. So please, well, before that, I will probably ask, "Oh, help me." But that's not the style. Teaching is the secondary. Teaching is important. Teaching is great, but at the same time, I don't want to do teaching for living. And again, I probably talked about this one very, very long time ago, but there's two different things in teaching. There are two big category in teaching, and we cannot really categorize those two things together. And one of the category of teaching is more like navigation, like school teachers. So what they do is pretty much offer the options, availability, which they can choose. So they introduce small things little by little so that the students can choose what they want to do. So it's more like a guide, navigator. And the second category is the masters or teachers, like the teachers, professors, who are very experienced in that field. That's pretty much what I'm saying right now. Like, make sure that you know who you're learning from. If you know that you're learning from those navigators or guide, there's nothing wrong. But you're still the guest of this culture. If you're learning from there's no professor in Sashiko, and there's no certification in Sashiko, but if you're learning from that type of person, then you are getting into that decision making. And you don't, have to be those people, but at the same time, it is important to know in advance what you're doing, what you're learning. Because you cannot really, school teacher, I cannot think enough to those school teacher right now, especially when my daughter is in school. I cannot thank them enough. They're great teachers, but they are not the specialist in one specific field. They might be, but in general, they are not. And that's how they're supposed to be. So they're a great guide, a great navigator. And those people moves on. And therefore, when some people ask me a question, if it's okay to mention about Sashiko in the sort of crafting or art history or some like part of their class, and my answer is yes, please go ahead, because the students know that they expect that they are getting the piece of information as a guide, as the sort of the navigation, the dictionary, not dictionary, directory, The problem happens when the student doesn't know that they might be the directly or the specific laboratory studying that specific topic. I think they might not answer just because perhaps they are afraid of confronting a scary issue that might stop them from feeling comfortable teaching. Probably so. I think I'm of this. Sorry, I'm one of the school teacher variety of teachers. Though I'm not actually a school teacher, I like to learn lots of things and expose people to things. So that's they can select what they like and go learn from the masters. That's why I always include my source. Yes. So there is no such a thing as I learned by myself. I taught myself is kind of a. Look, I taught myself a lot of things, like painting. I did not go to school. I did not go to college. I didn't go to occupational school to learn painting. But I don't think that I am fully comfortable saying that I taught painting myself because I watched millions of YouTube, not millions, thousands of YouTube videos, not thousands, hundreds of YouTube videos to learn the process. So my teachers can be Lowe's, can be Home Depot, or Sherwin William. So I learned from them. So that's something we kind of have to say that if the teachers know that they are not the sorry if the teacher knows that they are the navigator, what they have to do is pretty much one thing: reference, like where are they from, just in case that their student might be more interested in that. And unfortunately, sometimes that's the things they're missing because students what student wants is the answer, ideally easy answer. That's why it is so difficult to. That's why people think I'm confronting their ideas. I'm just illustrating the big pictures, what's going on right now. But so I think self-taught is a bit over mis misnomer many times because you can learn from people you never met. Yes, so you may probably, we may be able to create everything from scratch by doing over and over. That could happen. But at the same time, it's probably impossible in this society because we have SNS, social media. We cannot, we cannot, we cannot not watch those things, right? We cannot not watch those things because it's there. And one way to stop watching those social media is to shut it down. But once you shut down, you cannot spread your own idea too. In order to share, you have to see others. That's why I can speak up. Yeah. And again, like there's so many good, like it doesn't have to be Sashiko too. There's so many good teachers out there, but those teachers has different rules. And the point is that once they know, the student has to be smart enough to understand what the teachers are teaching. That's probably my point. It's not the teacher's job. It used to be teacher's job to sort of illustrate because there was no internet. Well, before that, usually it's the publication was this power. People who went through the publication are the answers, so they had a bigger power to teach. They are considered as the masters or specialists, and they are probably. But right now, writing a book itself is not so strong because we know that the publication can be for some specific purpose. because we can find two completely different opinions or ideas in publication too. So, I mean, there are many, there gonna be many people. The more Sashiko becomes famous, the more teachers comes up, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a trend. And am I happy about it? I don't know. I mean, I don't know means that it's not my thing to decide. I am teaching when I am requested. But usually I offer, well, I'm confident. I am confident in my teaching. That's one thing I can say. So, um, and I don't want anybody to kind of go around what I did. There's a big detour. I don't want to go to detour. It was not pleasure things to do. So if I can cut those detour, I like to help that. But one really needs some practice anyway. Like they might get the big, nice boosted start, but if they stop stitching, they will probably not gonna get that place. So for that, even without taking any classes, if one keep practicing Sashiko, stitching Sashiko with watching this live streaming for, let's say, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 11 years, not 11 years, 15 years, they might reach there without, taking any classes, anything, just watching this YouTube or talking to somebody. But in that case, I hope that person will not say that they told themselves. They are watching this. So they probably told themselves, but they are using this as the sort of reference. And, we are not asking any credit for that or commission for that. We're not asking. We just need to acknowledge that who we learn from, so that the story never ended somewhere. Like, for example, if I say that I taught Sashiko myself, everybody who was there before me are gone. They're all wiped away because of me saying that this is something I learned by myself. I taught myself, which means that by not mentioning who I watched in learning Sashiko, their stories are gonna be gone from the history. And it's okay if this culture is established, but since culture is not established in Sashiko, we have to be very careful. And it is very important to know that who we learn from. It can be your grandma, it can be their uncle, it can be anybody. It can it can be from the street. I don't know who, but there's no such a thing as I taught myself in the mountain when I'm by myself. It could happen without the internet, without the social media account, but today's it's impossible. Student has have to be ready to understand. I used to be a tutor, and my job was entirely to help. No, entirely to help student becomes really to understand the class they was taking when they realized they were behind. Yep, it's teaching. I think it's not about teaching anymore. Not the teachers. Well, I always say that teaching comes with a great responsibility. So I don't change that opinion. But at the same time, now it's probably a student's responsibility. Not a responsibility, but students. We have to depend on the student. We have to depend on the people who learn from us. Well, that's probably the beauty of me teaching. That's the fun I find. I enjoy teaching, by the way. Like as much as I said that the teaching is not the first, or teaching is not the, because I can find many future Sashiko artisans. Many people are good. I'm not talented. I'm really not a talented person for that. I just have been doing this one for a long time. And there's so many potentials, so many good, not a good people, so many talented people out there. So, teaching, learning don't happen separately. Yeah, that's a very good point. Teaching can be a commodity in this trend or in this world right now. So somebody will consume the culture somehow in any way, no matter what. That's something we cannot change. Like, we have to sort of use it. The discussion that I don't like to use it. I don't like the idea of teaching. That's what my family used to say. Like, they did not want to share this Sashiko at all from outside of our family. And sure, that's a probably very good way to protect the culture when there's no internet. When there's internet, that's impossible because somebody will consume it, consume. So the only way is to speak up. Only way to sort of pass down is speak up. And I don't think I was wrong for that too. I still believe that I was right for that. So is it reasonable that I did not feel good about when they said that I get benefited from the trend? I am getting benefited from the trend. It's 100% for sure. Like, I am getting benefited, but it's okay that I did not feel comfortable reading that, right? Like, kind of not a disgust. I did not even get upset. And there was a little spikes that yeah, that's right, but why do you say that? Like, you don't have to say that. Do I get really, well, I do get benefited for that. But do I really want to just keep still? I don't know. This happens. Like, this is more like a fate. When I wanted to make Sashiko as the world trend, focusing on only money when I was doing that in 2008, 9. I wanted to make a fortune by doing Sashiko, and back then, I wanted to make our Sashiko like the big trend. It did not happen. Now it's happening without me doing anything specific. So it's pretty much luck. Luck? Probably it's not luck. It's probably fate. That's the word I'm using. Fate is the word for that. It may be selfish to say this, but I'm glad at least that you share this. What did I say? What is selfish to say? That I get benefited? What is selfish? Did I say something selfish? Did I say? Okay, has been 1 hour almost. So if you have any questions, let me know. I will try to answer that today if I can. Or if you're watching this from archive, I will try to answer that in next live streaming. Exploded during pandemic. Yeah, it did not help well. It did not help well, but at the same time, it expanded the possibility too. So it was probably just a fate. It was supposed to be. It was meant to be like that, I guess. I mean that I'm being selfish by saying that I'm glad you're sharing, Sashiko, and not keeping it secret. I don't think that's selfish to say that. It's the biggest difference between like mm, that's a very good point. I don't think it's selfish. Welcome back, Helen. It's Thursday and it's almost completing because I'm pretty tired. But yes, it's Thursday. Mm, I don't think that's selfish. It's really very simple that I'm sharing this. Some people may think that they think what they want to think. So what I say might not really matter too. But there's a very simple, very primitive as well, primitive reason that why I'm sharing this. I want my daughter to know who she is in the future when it comes to that. In order to do it, I don't think she should carry this burden by herself because that's I respect her life. It's not like 30 years ago in Japan that the firstborn child was still supposed to take the family business or whatever, the family oriented things. That 30, 40 years ago was like that. But it's in this world, it is not reasonable for my daughter to take this burden. So there are two ways to do it, right? Die with it. I will just make, completely make it secretive and then try to be as difficult as I can, as I am doing right now. I'm trying my best to be difficult as possible. Like the Japanese artisanship is kind of like that very old-fashioned way to sort of keep everything secretive is one way to do it. And if I were to choose that, that's a very respectful way to do it as well. At the same time, that's more like for one specific thread. What I wanted to protect is not the thread or what I'm doing. I don't really. It's great if this Sashiko stitching is passed down to the next generation. That's great. That's what I'm doing right now for. But that's not the primitive. That's not the main reason that I'm sharing. The main reason I'm sharing this is that I can share the stories of my people, the people who I met, the people who made me like that in a both good and bad ways, both positive and negative way. There's so many people who taught me sort of life, not only stitching, not only Sashiko, but also everything else around it. So I had like so many grandmas in my life who doesn't stop talking, who did not. So by not speaking up or by not sharing, by somebody defining what Sashiko is without those voices, their existence is not gonna be recognized. They don't care. Probably they don't really care. I mean, do they care about being remembered or not? They don't give a. They don't. But I do. Like I want them to be remembered, or they don't like to be named. They like to be anonymous. So I respect that. At the same time, without them, the Sashiko I practice does not exist right now. I don't probably exist like this. So it's for my daughter. It's for my identity as well, and it's for this line of stories. Let's say that I am here now as now present, and I'm gonna gift it to my daughter. I hope somehow. And I received the gift from those people, and those people also received that from somebody else, and those somebody else goes to my great grandmother. That's why in this. But those stories are supposed to be forgotten. It's gonna be forgotten no matter what. It's gonna be forgotten over time, but I don't want to filter it for somebody's convenience of profit as the result. I'm here. That's why you need to write a book so that stories are not lost. Yes, I need to. I do. Please wait. I need a publisher. Well, I will write, and I will bring it to the publisher who don't mind publishing as is. I will write. But at the same time, this is kind of selfish, like my selfishness. But there are people who kind of understand what I'm saying. Scary. Like, how can they reach to that place without the 30 years I suffered from? But there are people I sort of respect already, and also get jealous. I get jealous. Like, I this might be another selfish way to say. I wish I were there to teach myself what I'm doing right now. Like, I wanted to have me there back then. For that, yes, I am trying to become a person who I needed, who I really wanted to have 35 years ago. Yeah, that's probably what I'm doing, actually. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Like, I needed somebody. I really wanted to have somebody like this, I guess. Well, probably not. But it would be very, well, those suffering was probably very necessary for me to be like here. So I shouldn't say that I did not need it. But at the same time, it was not, it was not pleasant memory. It's not even present memory as of now. So if I didn't have to go through that, I wouldn't have to go through that. That would be fantastic to skip it. Does not need to be a book of how to do Sashiko. I know. But publishers don't agree with that. I mean, publisher, as long as I know, there's some publishers contacted me, but um, they have to sell the book, right? I mean, I 100% understand. They have to pay me as well. I don't know how it's gonna be done in the US, but publisher has to make a sale to make it sustainable. Of course, that's the business activities. And as of now, I guess the request for the Sashiko stories are not that high in comparison to how to do Sashiko. So when they find me writing a book, their first expectation is the book of how to do things. And when I say I don't want to write about those things, that's the mismatch of interest. If there's anybody listening to live streaming every Thursday, please let me know from the publisher. Um, what I like. You don't have to, like, you can write a book. Usually, the people don't, if you're here every week, you're very unique. So it's not that easy to find this. Self-publish, yes. I have to write, and English is my second language, and I'm quite busy as a father, and I don't outsource things, so it takes time. It takes time, and it's kind of too slow to write a book, so I prefer, not a prefer, prioritize this speaking up in the live streaming, and also the Instagram. Some like almost flash, which I do not necessarily like it, but waiting to be summarized as the book can be too slow in this trend. But at the same time, as I know it is very important to write a book, so I will. I think the publishing online is also very good and helps these things out, not get lost. Especially if you can get an internet archives to preserve the video. So that's my Instagram is all about. Um, instead of writing a book, by writing on the Instagram, it's always there. At least I take archives, so it's there. And the book, if I were to write a book, it's going to be re-summarize of those, re-summarize. It's going to be a summary of those Instagram posts and also Patreon's post. So it's just, it's kind of difficult. I might be scared too, a little bit scared, because I know that people cut and paste what they want to do. Like they read what they want to read. Well, I do that too. Like I probably read what I want to read. So that's something we have to expect in today's world. Live streaming Instagram, I can sort of like not navigate, but at least I can speak up. But in a book, I don't know about. Well, I'm not in a hurry for that. Like Sashiko cannot be in a hurry. That's the whole thing. There's a many ways to expedite everything. Hire somebody to do all of what I'm doing, like lawn mowing, painting, cleaning, cooking, all the things. I can put my daughter into the daycare, or like those schools, after school, summer school, like you name it. I can, and I can focus on writing. I can focus on doing the Sashiko stitching, like I can focus on making money. But that does not define the Sashiko I would like to share. If I have to sacrifice my ordinary to explain my ordinary Sashiko, that doesn't really make sense. Like it's saying, it's really not, it's not probably a good example, but it's like speaking for the sustainability using the plastic bag or eating some McDonald's. Like I'm the sustainability is super important for us. I'm gonna write a book about sustainability, yet I am putting all of the things into the plastic bag. No, sure, but that's, your writing might be great, but what you do is actually not. I mean, if there's any good reason to use the plastic bag, I'm not really extreme environmentalist. So I would like to reduce the amount of plastic, but I'm not saying like we should cut all the plastic usage when there are things that cannot be wet. Of course, plastic is more important than being wet. So that's okay, but there's a little weirdness there. None of Japanese craft publishers reached out to you as yet. Probably they won't. It's my feeling, but they did not have a good. As long as I know, they do not have a good experience with my family. Not me. I was younger. I was not in the business back then. But they, I'm extremely difficult on the internet. I tried my best to be extremely difficult on the internet. I'm not like here on YouTube, right? Like on the Instagram, my writing is extremely difficult, and I want many people to find me as a difficult person. In person, probably not that difficult. I'm more like easygoing, I guess. That's what I'm. But my family was really difficult to work with. And because of that, I know how to be difficult. Like, if I say this one, it's going to be difficult, it's something I know. That's why I can do it. I mean, I probably shouldn't, well, no, I should be difficult on the internet. because this is what Sashiko, like, if it's American culture I'm sharing, then probably a different story. But I am sharing the Japanese culture, so I have to be like, yo, what's up, man? Can I, yo, what's up? Share, tell me the price. Yo, it's not gonna do. I don't like. I mean, I don't mind sharing the price of something, but that's not how it's done. So, sorry, you gotta learn first. But there are a lot of comments like that. There are a lot of DM like that, and I keep deleting it. I don't like it. Not like it. I don't. Not even I don't like it. It's so funny though. Two completely extremely different comments. One is extremely polite, scary polite, like long, nice, well written DM, which I try to read as much as I can. And those are about 5 or 10%. Then the 95% is, of course, excluding spam. The other 90% is like, teach me how to do Sashiko. Like, teach me. Like, teach me. And also, where is a workshop at? Here? Like, why are you going to New York? New York is dangerous. Yeah, so, what? Like, this. I would like to be their friend. I would like to be your friend, but I'm not yet. Especially if I don't know who you are. What's up? It's not gonna be good. But yeah, that's how it is. Right now, that's how it is, right? And I think it was not like that in the US too, right? It's not probably cultural thing. It's a generation thing too. Oh, sorry, I completely skipped the little comment. As a librarian, I've always found people obsession with books as superior ways to preserve the pass on information really weird, and also kind of leaves out oral histories. Yes, I understand. My wife is like that. My wife loves books, so she has to have it. The idea that oral histories must be published as a book or they will be lost forever is just weird. It is, and but the wow, why am I making excuse not to publish a book? But I would like to. For some reason, I'm not unable to do it right now. At this moment, I'm not rejecting anything. The idea that all history must be published. No, sorry. That said, if you want to preserve your stories in book form, I'd add into my collection. Thank you. I will. I will slowly. uh, I, it's really sort of like a catch-22. If I focus on what is required or what is requested, I have to work hard, which is gonna sacrifice my orderly. And if I sacrifice my orderly, I feel the Sashiko I do lose its value. The more I do my orderly, the less I have to stitch. The less I stitch, the more inferior, the less superior, the more inferior feel, so that I start stitching. Then I need more time to stitch. That as a result, I don't really have time to work on those things. So it's really, there's no way out. And the solution is super easy. Outsource it. You gotta find a way to handle it. Hire somebody, outsource it. Your time is very limited, so you should do what you have to do. Focus it. Yes, that's very true, but that's not true in Sashiko. That's the that's the problem. So but it is coming little by little. It's coming. Like, I didn't have the online Sashiko class 3 years ago, although many people asked me to make it. I kept saying like I cannot do it. It happened, so it will happen. It's just a matter of time. Oral history is now surpassed, and even books will at some point be surpassed by digital, and oral history can also be changed but translated well. Not, yeah, so oral history, oral and written are a little different, and it can be extremely opposite. So, like, do we all 100% trust the publication at this moment? Probably not. I used to believe that everything written in books are correct. I used to probably, but at this moment, probably I'm not gonna trust everything in the book. So I don't know why I'm like protecting myself to not to publish it, but I would like to publish it, and then I'm working on it slowly, very slowly. That's the thing. It isn't surpassed. It existed. It exists simultaneously alongside the books and digital content, and continue to pass on information in many communities. I think the idea that these things are surpassed is also weird. Method of communication do not surpass one another. They just add to one another. I may have a different understanding of surpassing, so just let me Google what surpass, the definition of surpass. Okay, go over. Excel. Oral history now is surpassed, and even books will at some point be surpassed by digital. It's now surpassed. So oral history and then books, and those books will be surpassed by digital. And oral history can also be changed. I think that's why I keep saying my story. Like, but we all have stories, right? Like, that's not. Stories exist. All of the stories I share exist in my memory. And it is true to me. And I used to really worried about those things, but I got a really nice comment, like a series of comment that if you think it's true, if you think it's true, that's true. Okay, if that's easy. But one thing I could do is that I share those stories while doing this. That's my sort of the validation that I'm not really speaking out of nowhere. So there's no need to prove what I do or what I say. But at the same time, it probably offered the better package, I guess. Yeah, one of the I used to read a lot of Russian literature in my college. It was weird. And I read it in Japanese, I read it in English, and my wife understands Russian and Ukrainian, and she read it in Russian original language. That didn't go well. That did not go well, and we do not really agree. Like Haruki Murakami's book, I don't think we are on the same page. Translators are doing extremely great job. Don't get me wrong, translators are somebody who I cannot respect more than enough. But there's a little one filter of the translator. It's not a good or bad, it just happens. It happens. So that's why I do not translate what I say into the different language. Of course, there's a many requests for me to, translate what I say, what I write into Spanish, or what was the other language? Portuguese, I guess. Spanish, Portuguese. Not the French or Italian. Or Russian. There were quite many requests for that. But I have not done it. I can't do it if I pay enough. But I still don't I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the best translator in the world can filter some of the message. And that's a little scary. I cannot take it back if some misunderstanding happens. In English, because I'm not translating anything, I can, and I will correct what I say, what I wrote. Story start moving itself. Words start moving itself because of the internet. It's like a game. I've heard from him like this, I've heard from her like that, and then it becomes completely different thing with the image that I said so. And that's the... I think I'm a little scared. Instagram is much easier. Social media is much easier to fix it too. Books are... I think I'm scared. That's a very good way to put it. Yeah, probably I'm scared. I know how people can be nasty. And last few years, that was my challenge to understand how nasty they can be. And those people exist. So, and self-publish is a great way, but does not have the publishers to protect, the cushion to protect. So it's a good and bad. Of course, I can trust people here, but the fear or those emotions is not something we can control. Sorry. Things written are often translated and misunderstood. Yeah, I'm sorry, I read this one. Books are slowly being phased out in favor of digital. Bookstores are in short supply and close if they are not big box stores. Yep, that's very unfortunate, but that's true. I think that's less about books and more about capitalism. A lot of things are phased out, favored by big box stores without being phased out. Yep. A lot of books are now being authored, ghostwritten by celebrities and make the New York Times. And yeah, so what is the goal? I want us to think what is the goal of all the actions we take. So live streaming's goal is very easy, right? Simple. Like I always make sure that I share what the goal is for any actions I do. Live streaming's goal is to share. Oh, first of all, the goal of this live streaming is to make a place so that anybody can come and join. So if I start blocking one specific person without any reasons, please let me know. I mean, that's not gonna happen. That's the end of this community. I mean, if there's any troll, that's a different story. But without any reason, if I block somebody, that's the end of this community. So I'm not gonna do it. But that being said, the reason I'm doing this live streaming is to share unedited version, unedited, not modified. I cannot change this one right now. I'm holding this fabric and I'm not first forwarding, I'm not slowing. So I cannot cut and paste what I want to share. I just share everything without any editing, even without acknowledging what's going on. So that's pretty much the image of one child looking at mothers or grandmother cooking. Why did I say mother? Like parents or grandparents cooking, and they learn by just watching it. So that's kind of the image I have in terms of passing the culture down. It can be talking, it can be doing, but it has to be sort of unedited, like original scene. And that's the whole purpose of this YouTube live streaming. And then YouTube videos I have is more like modified version, more condensed. The goal of those videos are to deliver the message, which I haven't done much of it lately. Instagram, social media, the purpose is that for me to keep thinking, to keep sharing it, because I think I have more to share, but at the same time, I don't know what I don't know what the other people wants to know that I don't know. So when it comes to that, the goal of publishing a book gets a little vague. Why do I want to publish a book? Why do I want to publish a book? Like, if there is a person saying like, I want to do Sashiko and be famous, I think it's a little too greedy. Make like if you want to get famous, just you can of course use Sashiko, but your goal is to be famous. Sashiko is just a vehicle to be there. My goal is to pass down what it is. So this live streaming, to be honest, conclude. This is good enough. As long as there's an archive, there's a YouTube left alone, this kind of conclude everything I'm doing. So publishing a book is great. I would love to do it, but it still does not explain the specific goal. Do I want to make money? Of course I do want to make money. Do I want to be famous? Of course I want to. Like I want to go to those signature things. But it's a little weird to not to what is this? What? So the goal of publishing a book is I have to spend more time on narrowing down what is the goal of publishing a book. If the goal is to be famous or recognized more or make money, then I probably shouldn't publish a book because that's not the goal I want to focus on. Of course, I want to achieve those things, but that's not the main thing I like. I don't want to have two goals because it's gonna make me miserable because it's difficult. You don't want to have two goals at one time. Don't do that. It's really too much. Like, one by one is good. I want to do Sashiko and then be famous is a very good way. That's not a one step by one step. I want to and and then like those then is a very I'm playing with the word, but purpose is very important, and I really focus on the purpose. Like I always say that what is the purpose of this one, and ask me like if you kind of find it weird, if you find my word strange, or if you do not get what I'm doing at all, ask me what is my goal. I don't think there's a case that I do not have purpose. Do I? No, I think I always have a reason, purpose to do it. That's how I'm trained to survive. So for that, the publication has a little less, like a little weak purpose, as the result, I'm not prioritizing that. Yes, I hope that makes sense. I feel you have a good intention. That's why I come here on Thursday and enjoy what you have to say. Thank you. But don't trust me fully, okay? Like, I want, this is one part of one Japanese who happened to be doing Sashiko stitching for his entire life. And I'm kind of a Maverick for that. I'm not the orthodox line, because if I'm the orthodox, if I'm the like the core of Sashiko stitchers, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be sharing, because the core, the very, very, very principle of Sashiko does not encourage that. So I don't want you to think that what I share is the answer. It can be the part of the answer, but not the whole answer. So I keep, I always ask you to learn from somebody else too, but make sure to know who you're learning from. But besides that, the worlds are bigger than what we know. So what an interesting life today. A lot of perspective to observe and observe. Thank you, Stacy. I wasn't like this though. When I was in Japan, I was more simple, I guess. I cannot compare that, because back then, 10 years ago, I was not capable of thinking in the English right now, like as I do right now in my brain. So my language ability changed too. Why am I going 30 minutes over? Oh my gosh. Ah. Okay, and then I thread it again, and I don't like finishing this. One more line. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. Why did I thread? I wanna. I said I'm so sleepy, and I was gonna finish at 10 o'clock, which is 30 minutes ago. And it's autopilot. Autopilot. I have to stop myself to not to thread it. It's scary sometimes. It's really, nice though. It's very much, I'm very grateful, and it's probably privileged for that. I really don't have the experience of that I cannot thread. I learned how to use Threader before the workshop, because there were some people who couldn't thread, and I kept threading, and that was very difficult. So, I mean, difficult to teach if I had to keep threading somebody's thread. So I learned how to use the Threader. Provide now. I provide those. I even have videos somewhere, I guess. Anyway, so that's the threading is sort of something I have never had trouble with. I don't think I can thread with eyes closed, but I probably can if I practice enough. So sometimes, like, I don't really take care of my hands well or eyes. I kind of, not a neglect, but I really do not pay extra attention. Like, I use a lot of hands, and I mean, I think I'm not really taking care of myself well as the somebody who make living by using hand, also using eyes. But I think that's okay, and that's how it's supposed to do. Like, if I cannot use my right hand, I can stitch with my left hand. If I cannot use both hands, I can try to stitch with my leg. Feet. So what I do is not that special. I'm just, well, I think that was Lily, but it's capitalism is going on, and there's nothing wrong with capitalism. Please don't get me wrong, but it's a little unbalanced. And we probably had enough for the capitalism. Next generations are feeling like that too. Not me, not us. Somebody else in the next generation. And I don't know what's going to be the next. Not the communism, I hope. But without the capitalism, we couldn't have this lifestyle. And capitalism is very important to understand. At the same time, it's probably not the best way to preserve some cultures. But then question comes up, do we really have to protect the culture though? Like, why do we have to protect the culture? I mean, is even culture something to protect? Isn't it culture is just the result of our choice? So it's probably not something to protect, it's just probably something to observe. Maybe. What about the coffee table book? You really like? Yeah, like I want to share some photos too, because I think that's something I can offer to this world. Not many people make what we make. I mean, there are many, Sashiko artisans with the hanafukin, small this dishcloth, a lot of hitomedashi, and those things are very cute, very attractive by first glance. It gives you very simple, not a simple, uh, sort of quick satisfaction, not instant, but very quick. So that's probably the main trend. At the same time, that does not make one to be able to stitch the whole denim that easily, or like 100 meters wasn't is crazy, but that's a stupid idea. But 100 meters wasn't I said it, so I have to do it. But those are something that we can provide to this society. So, and again, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Those hanafukin is great. Hitomedashi is great. It's just a different approach. I can teach, but I cannot do the live streaming with those because I have to think. I'm not thinking right now. So do it. I am actually doing it little by little. It's just I probably summarized well today. I am kind of not a slowing down, but I don't put it in the priority because of the sort of vague goal, and also I'm a little bit scared of the cut and paste. But yes, I will. But I have to make living somehow too. We are just immigrant as well, after all. We're the first generation of immigrant to the US. So we don't have the family very close. So one of us has to be always functionable. That makes it a little bit difficult to focus. But that's the ordinary, so I will not neglect that. If I neglect it, my Sashiko loses value. Wow, that's a cluster. The more I listen to my, the more I hear my word. That's a very effed up. But That's what it is, and I'm happy with that. Okay, I will go off today. I'm gonna show my face off a little bit, but I'm so tired. So just okay. Thank you so much for the nice talk. Thank you. I really appreciate the comments. The more comments I receive, the longer and deeper discussion becomes. So I really appreciate it. I'm sorry. I forgot about the announcement. I will be having the in-person workshop in the New York and also the California next month. I will put the details on the description area. So next time, please remind me that I have to say it in the beginning. In the beginning. And I should probably make a video too. And what else? What else? Well, besides that, please leave the comment if you have any request for me to talk about. Also, that'd be great if you could press the like button. It helps me to keep this channel healthy. Okay, and I hope you have a very good weekend. It's Thursday, you have one more day, but I have one more day too. I hope we can have a good night and have a good weekend. See you next Thursday. Bye bye.